Welcome back. This is Take Action News. I'm Carl Frisch all afternoon. Joining us now, one of my favorites, Tina Dupuy. She's the editor-in-chief of thecontributor.com. You can find more of her work, her syndicated column, at Tina Dupuy. That's DUPUY.com. Follow her on Twitter and everything else. Tina, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Carl.
So last time we had you on the show, we talked about your column concerning the poor shaming of America, which is essentially trying to make those who are, the working poor, the working class, seem as if they are morally less than the rest of us because of some reason, and that's why they're poor. I wanted to get your reaction to this article that I read on Dan Savage's blog, The Slog, over at The Stranger in Seattle, about a young Starbucks employee, I don't know if you saw this, who was living on food stamps like many people that work in that the fast food industry. And he was fired for eating one of the sandwiches that Starbucks threw away at the end of the day. When they mark things as, we can't sell these anymore, they've expired, whatever. He grabbed one out of the trash and ate it, and a week later he was fired. What does it say about the way we value workers in this country that a young man who is trying to do what's right, he's 21 years old working at Starbucks, but not making enough, and he's working almost full time. They keep you just below full time so that you don't accrue benefits. He's working his tail off, working almost full time, but still can't afford enough money to pay for food, so he's eating out of the garbage, and his employer fires him as a result, saying that he was stealing from the company food that they had already thrown away.
Right, because we'd also like to waste food before feeding our employees. This is, and what kind of keeps these measures in place is that, it's kind of framed that this guy was stealing instead of Starbucks is being subsidized by taxpayers by not paying their people enough, giving them enough hours to where they don't qualify for food stamps. It's really framed the wrong way. When we talk about Walmart and we talk about the Walmart heirs and how they own, I think it's like 40% of the wealth than of the 99%. It's ridiculous. These people are more wealthy than they could possibly ever imagine, what have you. And the fact that they have been benefiting in every measurable way from government subsidies, that they're not only can you qualify for Medicaid in some states, but you can qualify for food stamps. If you are raising a family, if you have children and you work full-time at minimum wage, you qualify for food stamps because you can't feed yourself, you can't feed your family. So we have been kind of taught to believe that personal responsibility means that if you don't like your job and you're poor, you should just get a better job. And if you don't get a better job, it's really on you because you're the one who's decided to work at McDonald's. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of these places, and if you talk to people who live in these kind of depressed towns, Youngstown would be a great example to look at. They're in the news because there's a new study out that all of the earthquakes that have happened to Youngstown are as a direct result of fracking. But Youngstown had like a 25% unemployment rate in the 80s when everybody else was being raised up, right? When everybody else was having a boom.
When Ronald Reagan was carrying us all on his broad shoulders.
Correct. Youngstown was depressed. So if you live in a town where there are no jobs, or the only jobs that you can get are jobs where you have to stand for 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, and you're not able to do that physically, you can't do better for yourself. Period. And so we kind of have been framing this discussion that people just they want to be poor. They're not smart enough, as Romney would say, to get a loan from their parents to go to college.
Right. Well, and towards the end of...
We've made it on the individual instead of on a system that's completely rigged against them.
Well, and the natural extension of this poor shaming, there's this story in Talking Points memo I wanted to get your reaction to, just to give people an idea of what it's about. It says, the main takeaway from an exhaustive new study of premiums on the Obamacare health insurance marketplaces they're generally going to be lower than expected, undercutting the persistent claims of, quote, rate shock by conservatives. Now, before I get your response to the news that surprise, it's going to be even, insurance is going to cost even less than we thought it was going to cost. People without health insurance, they get poor shamed too, right?
Well, yeah, people without health insurance aren't being responsible in buying health insurance. Plus, according to conservatives, they can just go to the ER to get health insurance, which is, not only ridiculously expensive, and we all have to pay for that.
But it's also only for emergencies.
Healthcare. It's also for emergencies. I mean, if you go in there with a non-life-threatening condition, say, a migraine or something that you would need health care for, something that you need to go to a doctor for, they will turn you away and have turned people away for the inability to pay. If it's only if you're bleeding, are they required by law to actually give you health care? But I think the important thing, and I think we kind of miss this a lot of the time, Carl. There are people who are still upset at the income tax. There are people who are still upset and will never respect Social Security. Ayn Rand, for example, was apoplectic at the idea of Social Security as she was enjoying that in her latter years.
Oh, God bless her. I mean, she was an atheist too.
To use her phrase, writing books doesn't pay that well. So, we also subsidized Ayn Rand. Which I think is poetic, much unlike Ayn Rand. It's actually poetic. Anyway, so I think that as we talk about the benefits of Obamacare, I think that's what really the right wing is afraid of, that people will actually like it, and they're basically decent reforms. There are also Republican reforms. I think that we should have a single-payer health care plan. I think that's much more cost-effective. I think that a marketplace-based plan will never be as cost-effective as it should be or could be.
It's a giant step in the right direction, though.
It is a step in the right direction, but it is not a cure-all. I don't
know.
Think the individual
no, and
Heritage Foundation.
The one time I thought Republicans were intellectually honest was during the debate over health care. The only time that they were intellectually honest is when they said, Democrats only want to give you this plan because you'll get hooked and you'll think that you're entitled to health care. Yes, actually, yes.
Yes.
Precisely.
That's what I say about poor shaming. It's like if we make people feel bad about themselves, then they won't ask their country for more. And that's the bottom line. I mean, there are more people living in poverty in this country than there are Canadians in this world. We have about 40 million people.
Not that we want more Canadians, just to be clear.
That is correct. But there are a lot. There are kind of gobsmackingly huge amount of people in this very rich country, still rich country, who live in pretty squalid conditions. And so if we can make those people just feel like it's their fault, and it's not that they were that you now get to be king the same way you get to be in the middle class by virtue of birth. If we can make those people feel bad about themselves, then they won't actually ask the government to do anything about their situation, which is, Bill de Blasio, who's now the front runner in the Democratic mayoral race. Our election, of course, is Tuesday.
Right.
He said, I was at a meet and greet with him, and he said, the one thing that FDR didn't say was, we're going to help you as soon as the economy gets better.
Well, thank goodness he didn't.
And his populist kind of message has really resonated with New Yorkers, and especially liberal New Yorkers. And we're
going to be talking about the campaigns there. There's all kinds of stuff going on there. Public advocate, mayor, city council races. We're going to be talking with some folks later on this program about that. Tina, before I let you go, I wanted to encourage people to go to your website, tinadupuy.com, and read your column. We're running out of time, or else we would have touched on it. The Creationist with an iPhone Paradox. You'll laugh your tail off. Tina, thanks for joining us.
You're the best, Carl.
Alrighty, so follow Tina Dupuy on Twitter and Facebook at Tina Dupuy. Go to her website, tinadupuy.com, sign up for her email alerts, and check out her latest columns. This is Take Action News. I'm Carl Frisch. Coming up next, we'll talk to Congressman Alan Grayson about the situation in Syria. Stick around.